Awesome. So we're here today to discuss deployment freezes and another merge request, this one. So Sean, you're just telling me about how we want to set and define, right, the times and for the deployment freeze.
Sure. So in the GitLab CI YAML, I think what's there is probably okay, where we'll have a deploy freeze node, and then we'll have underneath the start and finish. However, the issue with that, so that will be fine, I guess, for the MVC. But the issue with that in a larger environment is that you'll have to go into every project. If you have a free, blackout or freeze period, for example, on the weekends, then you'll have to go into every project and set them, and then also make sure that they're aligned within the different projects. And then there was a comment somewhere in this issue about perhaps it would be a good idea to have, in a future version, for an admin to have some type of view over all of the freeze periods that have been set inside all the various projects, possibly with a button to trigger them or override it or something. And then there was also a comment from the infrastructure team about how they have some type of calendar that follows public holidays, and so that could also be an upcoming feature as to one or more calendars that would then automatically freeze all jobs, and again some way to override it either within the YAML or via a page.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of thoughts there.
A lot of thoughts, yeah. But at this point, because this is the start and finish of for one freeze for one environment. But can an environment, are we going to support multiple freezes periods per environment on this MVC, or only one at a time?
Yeah, no, it would need to be multiple, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess I can update that, but I guess we'll basically have an array, a deploy freeze node, and then have an array underneath with an array of hashes, start and finish. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, because I put some questions here, because if an environment has multiple periods, I think those will also be reflected in UI. But I've also, like, my last question here is about, not this one. If we should display to users only when the deployment freeze is active, so when it starts, or if we should have a way to proactively tell people, hey, starting tomorrow at 8 p.m., this deployment, this environment won't be deploying to production, for example.
Yeah, that's also a good point, because when you schedule a pipeline, it might take some time to run, and then when you schedule it, the freeze might not be in place. But then by the time it gets to the deploy stage, then the freeze could actually be active. I mean, you could have an edge case like that. So I don't know. Maybe we should have some type of icon that indicates there's a freeze period, one or more freeze periods, and then the person can just kind of follow that through the YAML. Yeah.
Our freeze period in the YAML file, in the CI file. It's always easier for me to write CI file.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from my proposal, if I can open here, I hope I don't. See, that's why we need the designs on the issue description. I need to look for it. Here, it's not working. Oh, no, it's working.
It's just a bit slow. Yeah.
Just so slow today. Is it slow on your end as well?
Yeah, absolutely. This design page is slow.
Okay. Yeah, so this one, for example, because first I was trying to understand from the scope if we were going to do per job or per environment, which we are doing on an environment level, right? The freeze. That's what Jackie confirmed. And then let's say that, because I'm trying to understand how that will translate to users in the UI. So let's say that we updated the CI file, the pipeline ran, deployment freeze is active. That means that the pipelines, for example, this is the detailed view of a specific environment. And then here I added an alert, like non-dismissible, so that we can translate that information from the CI file, from the date and the time, at the start and end of the deployment freeze. I added as well the time zone, but I'm not sure how that will translate to users. So is it the time zone of whoever activated the freeze, or will GitLab kind of calculate this to the users, time zone.
That's a good point, actually. We have to work out how time zone, because I think cron doesn't support cron time zone. It supports the user's time zone by default.
Yeah.
So have to think about that. Maybe we'll need to add something. Time zone.
Because I think if it's going to be like always by default, the users, like whoever set the file time zone, can we even capture that information?
Yeah. I'm just real quickly checking something about time zone and cron. Okay. So short answer is cron's in the user's time zone. So I think what we should do in that case is have start, end, and time zone in the YAML.
So we can add the time zone to the YAML.
Yeah, and then we can, in that message, we can represent it in the user's time zone. So a question about that message. So it will only be active when we're actually already in the freeze period, or
exactly. I think it will be intuitive to, once you set, right, and the pipeline runs and you update the file, that we automatically show this, even if the freeze is not active yet, but that it will be, at some point in the future, to alert people that, yeah, this might happen, and not just out of surprise. Because from a user point of view, I think it's best to not use like the global notifications. Remember, like the other thread about informing everyone that this environment will be frozen for deployments at some period in time, but rather inform the people that actively work with environments. And if it's important for them to know that because of the workflow, then the sooner the better. That's my assumption.
Yeah, no, can I tell you what I think the Rolls-Royce version is? Or actually the Tesla version for today's terminology. I think it would be, instead of having this message, we'd have an active or inactive link to another page, or a page that will pop up behind, or a tab or something that would then have a calendar of freezes. And if there was no freeze in place, then it wouldn't be active, or would be otherwise indicated.
So you'll always see something like a call to action, this like deployment freezes, and then you like see when the next one.
In fact, it could also be the entry point. So maybe another button that says freezes, and so you'd click on it and you'd have a calendar view of freezes in place, and maybe you'd also have you'd have an option to add them as a global freeze.
Okay, it's a Tesla version.
It's a fairly big piece of work, though.
Here, the Tesla.
I told you it was the Tesla version.
Yeah.
And I guess in the meantime, maybe this message will suffice.
Yeah, and I wonder if more information. I mean, usually we take users to the documentation, but would it be interesting for people to go to, for example, the CI file from here and go to the specific line where you see the configuration, or maybe just the docs, right, to understand what's going on? That's my.
I think I think the docs. I mean, because our current entry point is only the CI file, so I think we can assume that the audience know enough about the CI file to be able to read it and find it in the CI file. So I think we can just have a link to the docs that describe that. Okay. Where it might become more complicated in the future is if we do have some way to have some type of global freeze added, for example, a calendar that applies to all projects. We'd have to have the two of them. But.
So you might want to take users to that info instead of docs. Okay. And do you think this UI translates like what would happen at that moment? So for example, the deployment freeze is enabled for this environment, let's say now, right? We are in between this freeze period, and then all these pipelines, all this will be skipped, right? Or not? I mean, some of them.
Yes. Okay. So good question. So actually, just one thing, just about this banner. Yeah. Look, I don't know if it needs to be such a big banner, because I mean, it's not red alert. I mean, what if we even just now would have an icon like similar to, you know, next to the other icons that exist where it just says freeze and it's either active or inactive, and then you could have a link to the docs that say go and look in your there's a freeze active, go and look in your YAML CI to see where it is. What it's missing is all this information. Or alternatively, you could just go to a simple page that would have it, because I think it's somehow having it here as this. It's almost like red alert, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it really is a red alert, right? It's just another setting we have in the YAML file.
Yeah, because this is the component that we normally use for information in general. I agree it's a bit disruptive, but UI wise I cannot change this one because there's the real component. And I agree with something more subtle, or for example that is more intuitive would be best, but I think at this point where it's a new feature, I think we want people to see it. Know that something is happening. Cool. Because remember the detached pipeline where no one knows what it is, just have a label. I also took that into account.
Yeah, I don't really know what it is still, so someone can explain to me.
All right, let me just add these comments to the discussion here.
Because you know, at the moment we might have a pipeline that has a manual deploy, right?
What's that? Sorry.
At the moment we might have a configuration where the production environment has to be manually deployed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And we don't say red alert on that, right? We just, the users know they need to deploy it because they're familiar with it. But yeah, given us a new feature, and it's almost like a breaking feature. Because I think, in fact, when you think it through, it's not going to appear unless the you know, the administrators have already put in the configuration, so they should know about it.
Yeah, but I wonder for like people that are usually consuming this. So for example, let's say that there is a freeze period on GitLab.com, right? GitLab.com project, and as a designer, working on my merge request, and I'm testing, not testing out, but I'm proposing a change to the documentation, design documentation, whatever. And I cannot see that deployed because so I think in general, we're going to have these personas that are not technical.
Yeah, okay.
So that kind of takes me to this question. Yeah, given that the pipeline won't retry automatically, we're going to skip it, right?
Yeah, so I think that, again, this is the MVC, I think, the skip, because it will be the simplest to implement. However, what we might consider doing, you know, going in a future iteration is to have an option saying try at the end of the freeze period. But I think that should be specific.
In the future, we have an option. So
in the YAML, say, you know, at the end of freeze period, try or something. But I think it should not be the default. So that will of course then require in the back end some type of monitoring of all this stuff. So it makes it, you know, a bit more complicated.
So we try the deployment. Let's see.
Yeah.
So for example, let me go back to so slow. Why is this so slow? So let's say that deployment freeze is I don't understand this. Everything is loaded. It's active, and let's say that it's enabled, whatever. And that in my merge request, for example, because I think that's where people are going to see the most. When their pipelines, Jesus Christ, I'm super impatient.
No, it's long. Yeah.
All right, cool. So here, for example, where I see that deploy is skip because it's active, it's enabled for this specific environment.
So here's a sideball, whatever it's called. So the pipeline gets kicked off. It doesn't get deployed because deployment freeze is enabled, and then the passes. What happens then? Do we come back and we put the mouse on here? Should it say deployment freeze was enabled or something?
Exactly. And I say like you can retry because deployment freeze is disabled, or
Yeah.
because I think that's where it's going to be disruptive to people, because they'll either have to go to the list of what pipelines and say run everything.
So I'm wondering if we should also consider having, it was skipped because of freeze status. Because then, because once the window's passed, it'll be a bit hard to work. I mean, it won't be hard, but it'll involve some. It might be difficult to work out why it was skipped. If the YAML was changed, for example.
So like this, right? So, because now you really cannot take any action as a user. I mean, you can manually try, but it will skip anyways, right? Because deployment freeze is still active.
Well, that's also a good point. If it's manual, should we have an option to force it? Or maybe tied to a role, maybe.
What's that?
Tied to a specific role, maybe. Like maybe the developer can't do it, but the maintainer can.
Developer can't, but maintainer can manually, right?
Yeah.
Run the pipeline, but run the pipeline or retry it.
Well, execute the deploy to run the deploy, because the rest of the pipeline can run actually, right? We're not stopping the pipeline; we're just stopping the deploy.
Okay, that's good for me to understand. Okay. Right, but I think in general, if we're gonna show like a helper message here that it's enabled, and we are not automatically rerunning or.
Well, sorry, let me just keep it. I'm overthinking this actually, because if okay, so if it's frozen and then it's the end of the freeze period and you want to run it, you just have to run the pipeline again, right? And that solves our problem. And so the only thing that we're not considering is what happens if you want to force it to be deployed during the freeze period. So the MVC would be, well, you go and change the YAML, but I don't know if that's a good solution.
Yeah, so you can modify the YAML.
Yeah.
But then it's gonna.
And then redeploy the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can. So that's really like a lot of back.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's a rough edge approach. Yeah. I think we should have it in a way to actually deploy it. Yeah.
Just like we have with merge trains, right? You can bypass. You can force.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Like merge trains, force the action if you want to. But
because if something's broken in production, then you don't want this stuff getting in the way.
Exactly, because so many steps. Like you have to go back, update the CI file, run the pipeline, wait for it to. It's just too much.
Yeah. There's a lot of steps. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Those are very good points. What else you can see here? I added this. I mean, usually just says deploy skipped, but I added this new tag new line.
Yeah, I think that's good. But I think to make that work, I think we'll have to have a different status. Skipped, freeze skipped or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an internal thing, but it'll just add to the back end, and we could expose it through the API if front end people want to use it.
Okay.
I had a point about the previous page.
Let me go back.
If you.
Let me. This is how I take notes.
Ready.
I understand my mess. And let me link. Oops. Let me link this. I can't believe I closed it. No, I didn't. Thank God.
Sorry. Let's go with your method. Sorry about that. I've interrupted your train of thought.
I need to add this comment. Yeah, sorry, I was reading.
Just go back one.
Image, the image?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Oh, can I go back with the arrow? I have to actually with my keyboard. No.
Okay, so if it can't be deployed, should we have like a, or do we currently have any icons that say, because I think we just have the same icon and it just doesn't work if it can't be deployed, right?
But that's the thing, I think here we're actually seeing the latest deployment. So if you, if this was updated 8 hours ago,
Yep.
and this was before the freeze period, here what you see is that deployment for 8 hours ago. You're not like, let me go back, let me go to one of these pages.
So that means though then.
So here see.
So why do we have that tooltip there then? You can't press it again.
Yeah, because on this page actually, I was like, okay, how can we inform users that deployment freeze is enabled for this environment? Because it can be that you still have, it can be this use case where deployment freeze is enabled, but you still have an environment that you can access, right?
Yeah, because you could have a use case where you want to redeploy the old environment.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And
like something went wrong, right? But you don't want to push the new environment. You just want to redeploy the old one. Well, sorry, I guess what happens then? That should not be covered by the freeze, right?
No, well, but still, you're still.
I'm just thinking, broken production.
Yeah.
Scenario.
Because let's say that this one over here, right, with the tooltip. Let's say this is production, and deployment freeze is enabled, but we can still access all deployments, right? If I go here, for example, I don't even know where it is. Operations.
Yep.
Environments. I never know. I'm like, and I go to the detail of this. Yeah. You only see.
You can only deploy the current one.
Oh, okay. So you will only see the deployment for this one here.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. Because this will also be conflicting if we want to tell people, if you want to inform users that, yeah, deployment freeze will be enabled, or is it, that is added to this environment, but it's not, let's say.
So what happens if we want to, during the deployment? So I think maybe we need to have a way to switch it off, because what happens if we want to roll back? And again, I'm just considering this from a broken production perspective. So we made a deployment just before the freeze period, and then we go into the freeze period and we notice production's broken. What do we do now?
Yeah, we need to have a way to bypass this easily.
Yeah. And what should we have an icon like Snowflake or something that shows that it's frozen?
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. And I was like, okay, I think the easiest way is to just show a tooltip deployment freeze is enabled. But that's the thing, because it's enabled, you don't have an actual deployment for this thing here, right? This will always be the previous one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you
okay. So that's I think that tooltip doesn't quite go there. Yeah. I think we need it, but I think it needs to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Maybe we can say like here on the row, saying that deployment freeze is enabled for future deployments, whatever, this period for future deployments. So it doesn't match because nothing will be deployed, right?
Yeah, because that environment is already deployed.
Yeah.
In fact, that's just a link to the already deployed environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The button will link to the already deployed environment. So perhaps show the freeze freeze information inline, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Or so so the freeze icon could also appear on the pipeline, and that could be a way to override it. Right. So we have the freeze icon, and then you click on it, and you have a drop down that says override this freeze.
Mm-hmm. Because if I'm here, let me go back. Okay, review. So let's say that whoops, this is
that's a good point. So are we considering only production environments or all environments?
I think all environments. I mean, you can skip review if you want, right? I mean, it's deploy freeze, but what stops?
Yeah, no, but you might want to have developers who want to work still on something, and then therefore they need the review environment.
Mm-hmm.
But production's closed, so they that doesn't stop the testers or reviewers from looking at the review environment, but they just can't deploy it until Monday or something.
Yeah, and if so, the way that we are going to illustrate this, it's also different.
Yeah.
Right. Because if it's only like the proposal say deployment freeze, so if so, it should be only working for these 4 guys here, right?
Yep.
And if I go in here, yeah, okay, it's because it's empty, but review. I go to gitlab.com because I think this one has better examples.
So I'm not really, how do we identify which one's the production environment? Do we do that somehow in the YAML? I'm not really across that.
Exactly. Look, these are review environments, and you have. So.
But we say that somewhere in the YAML, right? This is a review environment. I'm not really sure how it's configured.
Mm-hmm. I think it works for, this is a review.
They seem to be separate, yeah.
Yeah. So should be adding something, I think, more visual here in the UI, because you still will see the latest, right? So this should be like, I'm not saying that we should change the tooltip, but it could be like see latest live environment, or see last. We actually have a merge request for this, and that's an issue to be showing people that you're seeing the last live environment, right?
Yeah, but you might be allowed to. I guess we should decide if we have this freeze, does the freeze only apply to production, or does it allow you to, for example, deploy, review, or staging? Which you can make an argument for, right? Because, or is it just, or maybe the MVC is all environments, but because reviews further back in the pipeline, and then you might have people reviewing the work. In fact, you can easily see such a scenario. Actually, it's like, okay, we've got this deployment freeze coming up, and guys, we need to get all this new stuff in before then.
Mm-hmm.
And then some stuff gets missed, and then so people work on it so that it can be deployed immediately as soon as the freeze is lifted. So then they would need access to a review environment for that.
I mean, not understanding the technicalities, I think it makes sense to not, where is it? To allow it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be it could be a future version, but because I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is this a all environments freeze or a production environment only freeze? And I would say the best case would be production freeze.
I don't think we mentioned anything about production specifically, right?
Yeah, we just say environment. Yeah.
Just say environment. So I think in the example we say,
So what's the purpose? What's for regularly scheduled online syntax? Halt deployments in off hours. But again, I think we're really so I think the purpose of this is we don't want to push something into production when there's no support available for it. It's a weekend or something. But that doesn't necessarily mean people can't be working on development activities.
Yeah. Let's pose this question to Jackie as well.
It's an edge case, but I think we should clarify whether it's production environments.
Yeah. clarify if this is only for production environments or all environments. I have a feeling that it should be for all environments, because what if I don't have production and I just want to freeze whatever, something for, I mean, I cannot even think of a use case, but.
Yeah, no, but I think the use case is that we don't want to have support staff on call 24 hours, but support staff, not always, but generally, you know, their main job is looking after production, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they might look after other environments as well, but yeah.
That's it's good that we're having this conversation. Okay, so this one would go away, this tooltip, because the primary freeze is enabled, but you can still see later.
Yeah, I think it's confusing there actually.
Yeah. I say I'll update God this UI to remove the tooltip, since this will point users to the latest live environment, not frozen.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Jump to the next one. Yeah, we already went discussed this a little bit. Oh yeah, and then small details. But let me go back. I think I had this another one. God. It's like when I go to Brazil and I have to work. I actually avoid it. All right, you already went over this. I actually have another question. I don't know where I close this. You already talked about this a little bit, and what attributes can be specified in the YAML file. But is there any specific format for the date that people have to?
Yeah, we'll follow the cron format, which is a well understood format.
The cron format. Okay, and on the UI, it translates to the ISO blah blah blah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. We already talked about this. Let's see, anything else? I think we have more questions than before. But this is good because, yeah, we can already tackle the small UI improvements and think about how else this thing is going to affect the user experience. Because to me, that's I'm going to stop sharing my screen. To me, this is the most, you know, funny part right now, is that I just want to make sure that we don't miss informing people that this thing is happening and that they're able to understand.
I think we don't want to have a situation where people don't understand why it's not deploying.
Exactly.
But the counter argument is it'll only not deploy if they put the entry in their cron file. Right. So.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe on a large team, someone could put the entry in and other people don't know about it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to make some updates based on the things that we already clarified, and the other ones I'm just going to pose the questions here and ping Jackie, because the things, for example, for the calendar, and then those are really future improvements.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's good that we already it's kind of under our radar.
There was also a comment about Slack integration. So I have a question actually, because there was a note for the draft issue about carving that stuff out into new issues, and so should we do that now or leave it for the time being?
What is it? What note?
I'll just go to the issue. It was. Oh, here we go. Yep. I'll just Slack it to you.
Slack. Let me open Slack here.
So there was 3 points that, so the 3 points were, and this came from John Jarvis, his comment.
Your quote?
Yeah, it's my quote, but it's a quote of his issue, of his note. And so there's actually 3 points there. And so there was a note underneath saying we can carve it into a new issue. And so should we do that? Or it's actually kind of maybe even 3 issues?
We decided to fill the CI job.
So one was Slack integration. Yeah. And the second one is kind of the calendar thing.
Yeah. I think this should, my opinion, we should break this down into a separate issue.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't block us from implementing anything in the CI file, right?
But I mean, do we do that now, or do we come back and assess that later, maybe?
That's a good question. What did Jackie say? I actually just say feel free to update the description or carve out into a new scope issue. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just create a new issue with all those points in it.
I think it's best because then it's different requirements for how we want to
exactly. Yep. Yep.
And then we can add this as related to this one, because otherwise the MVC will get overcomplicated. But I like the idea. I would like to understand better, like the idea of the like the calendar, or how we would, display that to users. Because I also need to understand this a little bit. So when we get there, we can have this conversation again.
Sure.
Because especially if we're going to do this can we do this in a group level? We're not, it's out of scope right now, right? But I think there is a comment in the future, it needs to be defined as instance or group level as well.
So I think we should be cautious because, we think about our main on-call project is GitLab.com, right? So it's one project.
Yeah.
But, you can imagine in a large company, they might have hundreds of projects.
Yeah.
And then, they'll have all these different blackout windows. They might have blackout window by department, or, there's no support on Christmas Day or something. There's all different scenarios. Yep.
I think Jackie will probably want to investigate this further and do some problem validation.
Yeah. But it all builds. I mean, if we do the MVC, then there's nothing that much to change till we go a calendar or something. It's all just progressive.
Yeah, at least we'll have something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Lots of info on this one. So are we good to jump to the next item?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to share your screen, because I think this one is it's the merge request, right? Is this one here? Mm-hmm.
So I've forgotten what that was now. Oh yes. Oh yes, this is simple actually. So okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're providing an alternate way to display a link. Right, so if I'll go back to the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this issue here: enable a direct link to a release and a release assets. And so we might have this link sitting over in Amazon,
mm-hmm.
and what we want to do is, instead of displaying it with the Amazon URL, we're going to give it our own, not only name, but actually like a path.
Mm.
And that just gets added to the project and the tag. So so the user comes along and presses, this is the project, there's the tag, and then the second part is whatever they've added into this file path.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they click on it, it actually goes to the real resource.
Mm.
Right. So and the purpose of this is later on, well, first we don't have to display this ugly URL, but the purpose is also later on you move it to somewhere else and nothing breaks, right? Because it's just a redirect. And so the issue that came up during the development of this is, what if they put it up there and then later someone goes and deletes this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're now pointing to we're now displaying a broken link. And what we could do and so that was my question in the MR. In the MR where we're actually displaying the link, we could at the time the page is rendered check whether it's still a valid link.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if it's not a valid link, I would say still render the URL, but then say underneath this is no longer valid or something.
Okay. So it's like an error state message, like an empty state or a for saying, hey, this doesn't exist.
Yeah. Or exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me go to pajamas. This is entirely front end, right? Is that?
Well, in fact, so this MR, I said to this part of it's actually front end, but it looked very simple. So I said to Nathan, like, I'll just do it. I don't mind. So I guess now that it's getting a bit more complicated, maybe I'll need to flip it back. But let's see how it ends up.
Okay. Yeah, because I think from a design point of view, I'm going to link this here on the Zoom chat. If that's the case, if we're pointing users to a URL that in a way it's valid, right? That exists, but there's nothing there to display because there is a problem.
Yeah, well, it wasn't when it was created, but it's now a broken link.
Yeah. Then first thing I can think of is really the empty state, and down. Yeah, it's very huge, but
but the thing is, it's a link, like in a potentially a list of links.
Mm.
So should we have next to it an icon, broken link?
So you wanted to like, let me see if I can picture this correctly. So this is the release page, right? I'm on the release page, and there's a link there to an asset.
Yep.
And that link exists, but the asset that it lives inside of it on that path, right? Can it be like one or multiple assets in the same?
Asset can point to a different location, and one could be fine.
Okay.
Are you getting an echo? I'm getting an echo suddenly.
Oh, sorry. And then let's say that you're in the releases overview page, right? Can you hear?
Yeah, I just unplugged my microphone.
Sorry, it's from my computer. This is
I think that fixed it. I know.
Maybe now.
Hello.
Now better.
No, still better.
And now.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Okay, great.
So let me share my screen quickly, just to, if I'm getting this right. Okay. Okay, where am I in the right page? Yes. All right, cool. Correct. This is a broken link. Let's say that this is my release, right? And here, let me change this. Let's say that is not source code, but that this is like a asset.
Yep.
Asset one. Blah blah.
Yep.
Right, and then there is no chevron.
There's no chevron, exactly. So that now is broken. And so we can test that when we load the page.
Okay. And then we can say here like, this is a button, Jesus. And we can say here like, broken. Is this gonna work? No, it doesn't work because it's a link, but we can say something like this.
Yeah. And we could even have that as a link to a page in the handbook that describes what's happened.
This URL is broken, something like.
Yeah. Because in fact, so when we were doing when I was doing the development, I was discussing with the maintainer about his opinion was, well, why don't we just verify it when we upload it? Which we could do. The thing is that there's two issues with that. One is it might take a very long time to upload it if it's, gigabytes or whatever. So in which case it would be broken at creation time. But the other, I think the more likely scenario is that they upload it and then something changes and, it's now gone.
But if I click here and then I go to this broken URL, what do I see?
Oh, you just get a 404.
You'll get a 404, but it's
Yeah,
not
so
like,
yeah, the MVCs do nothing, right? And they just get a
okay.
404.
But this is not an internal 404, right? Because it has a path, but is this a GitLab 404 page?
No, no, it'll be 404 on wherever we go
Or
to.
whatever. Okay.
Actually, that's a good question. Yeah, no, GitLab, what will happen is GitLab will redirect to some non-existent location.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, cool. I can play around with this like real quickly. And because from your MR, and that's what I'm like, what is it? What does change here? Oh my God, what happened? Download asset. And this
I don't know why it's got all that other stuff in it. Oh yeah, sorry, it's got all the back end stuff in it as well. There.
okay, so it doesn't have the front end part yet. Okay.
The front end part is no, it does. It's just it's very simple. If you go it's just changing the URL field. It's a single field change. So I think it's right at the top actually. Yeah, there it is. So we went from URL to FirePath URL, which actually I need to change because that's the name of that has now changed.
Okay, but this doesn't include like this proposal on validating.
It doesn't include that exactly.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, I can just quickly play around with this because if we can inform users and if the application can validate ahead of time, we should. But I'm wondering if this would require the component, because it's a button component, to kind of have a loading state, you know, like a preloading while you validate, or because what happens when you land on this page is that if there's too much data, these cards are gonna, they have like a preloading state.
Yeah.
And some components, they have it right when you land on a merge request or issues, whatever. So I'm wondering if these item will need to be like validating to see if this URL.
Well, you could even take the positive use case. So you could just load the page, load all the URLs, and get it loaded as quickly as possible, and then go through those and then loop through them in the background, you know, in the browser, and then go and check if they're broken. If they are broken, then show it. Otherwise, don't show anything.
Okay. Yeah. So in any case, you have to transition probably. All right. I'm also is Nathan going to be working on this, you think?
Well, so I asked him, can I just work on it because I've done no front end stuff and it looks so simple. But now I'll have to ask him to get involved because it's a bit more complicated.
But then in general, I think that we want to do this in this very same merge request.
Yep.
Okay. Then
I've split it out. There's 3 other merge requests for the back end, and this is the front end one.
Then let me see. Then I'll add the designs here. I'm already ready. I'll quickly add the design for this here, so that just we know, because also as I'm working with this amazing page, look, this is my life at GitLab now. This is the release.
Oh, the release page.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that I'm capturing those UI elements, because you know by the time we do a redesign, I kind of need to know what all those small elements are. So if this is somehow going to be part of exactly this, you know, this link.
Yep.
And this link is broken.
Exactly. That's where it is. Yes, that's exactly it. Yep.
Then I want to say, okay, then here is a different UI component.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question now, seeing as you are the guru of this page. At the moment, I notice inside the code, we have a place for an edit page, but we don't have this. There is no edit page for releases, right?
Edit?
I mean, you can't edit the form anywhere.
You can.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can. That's what Nathan has been doing in.
Oh, but that's all it's all done with a view component, right? It's all front end.
Yeah.
Because I think we've got support. I'll double check, but I think we've got support for a Rails page, which we don't have, and so we should just remove it.
Then I don't know. I know that we have 2 pages now, and what we want to do is to have like 1 page for both edit, release, and text. And now, if you go and create a release, and when you try to add it, it's not the same form. It's very weird. Yeah.
But the releases edit you can do from either this kind of list view, right? You can just click on that edit icon.
or
No,
releases.
on the page, like to the right of ORIT. Yeah.
Oh,
So if you click on that, edit this release, and
yeah,
that's happening in line. There's no page. Oh, no, there is a page load.
the other page, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. All right.
And
That's fine.
we are extending this page to support milestones, the
Okay.
date, and assets. And these are like.
Okay. In that case, I won't remove it because it looks like.
No,
I thought it was all being done in line. I didn't realize it was
no,
a page load. Okay.
no. We have a page, and then after we add this attributes
Yep.
for the existing ones, then I'm gonna be working on creating a release through the UI because that's my next step. Because now we only support edits, but for create, you need to go to the API. You can create a tag using the UI, but you cannot, for example, add a milestone links. You can only edit that. So that's quite odd.
You, so this what you've got here in Sketch. This is in the Epic, right?
Yeah.
But it's in the design view. So we wouldn't have these arrows pointing to each other, right?
No. This is just for
that's only Sketch. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I do the prototypes. No, we will. I like orange lines.
No, I think they're great.
No, it's for when I preview, I don't know it's gonna work. But then I can say, yeah.
And where's the Epic? I've probably got it somewhere, but if you happen to have it handy.
I have a link to this in the Epic. You can navigate and see the workflow. It's actually here.
Can you select me that Epic number? 2312. It's okay.
Let me copy. It's on Slack. And delete the prototypes, and then here you can see it's in the work in progress folder.
Yeah, I've been in here before, but I get lost with so many.
If you display here, you can click on everything. It's not like the transitions are not fine or correct, but
yeah. Now, wasn't there something else we were planning to discuss?
I think those were the two main issues in the agenda.
Because there was. Oh right, okay.
No.
So the Jupyter notebooks we're not discussing.
I'm gonna add my notes.
No, the Jupyter notebooks. We're not discussing it here.
What do we have in Jupyter notebooks? You have a link? I'm like.
Yep. Hang on. Oh, it's so slow. The Runbooks, I mean, yep.
Runbooks. Mm-hmm.
Runbooks.
Let's see. Mm-hmm.
This is all okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for this one, there's a section in the issue description. Oh yeah, let's see. Oh, yes. Okay. We need Nathan for this.
Okay, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah. Because I know that he has a bunch of merge requests still open about the edit release in the page. So I'm not sure how he wants to proceed with that. But from a scope point of view, I'm not sure if this issue fully reflects what we're going to be doing in the backend. Like the front end, I have a proposal. But I think what I want also from you is to see if the dev proposal section, this one here.
See, it's actually a little bit, I wouldn't say out of date, but like the one of the issues I'm working on at the moment is adding that redirect, which adds fields to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but
where is it? So can we say that this merge request that you're working on right now?
Yeah, exactly.
The asset URLs is related to this, right?
Yep. I'll give you the issue number.
And I'm not.
It's issue 27300.
27300. I'm gonna add this as related here. Okay. Thank you. I added here. Yeah. Okay. Because I think the scope, it's not of the MVC, like just the description is not up to date. Because I didn't want to change it.
Sure.
For example, connecting a release, including upcoming release, to an instance of a runbook. Are we doing this?
I'm not sure.
No. Let me share my screen, because I don't think any of this is part of the MVC anymore. Like this section here.
Well, I thought we were going to connect, it depends what we mean by runbook, because I thought we were going to connect an arbitrary file, like it could be an Excel spreadsheet.
No, not at this point, just URL. We really...
But the URL could be, for example, in S3, and then we link to that URL. Is that incorrect?
I think that makes sense, but I
thought that's what the MVC was, and we weren't doing Jupyter notebooks.
Yeah, because I think what it's here in the scope is that it can be anything that is an asset that is GitLab or not. It can be external or
Yep,
internal.
exactly. Yep, so that would cover that scenario.
Okay. But I think we need to change kind of just the naming of things here. Because, for example, link release pages to the runbook, which displays runbook status, running complete. We're not going to do this MVC. You're really just displaying the...
Really? We're not doing that? I thought we were doing that. Okay. That's news to me.
I mean, yeah, you're just going to link to the runbook, and that runbook can be outside of GitLab, and then it's going to display whatever. But at this point, we are really just connecting. Let me show the UI.
But I thought we were going to have that we can connect to anything, right? Any file somewhere.
Yeah.
So whether it's a Jupyter notebook or not doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And then we're going to have two fields, one that said how many steps and then what percentage is complete.
No, that's future. That's another issue that should be linked here. There's not an issue. I'll find it for you.
Okay.
That's fine. That's another one that's actually, I think I have the proposal here.
Well, real quick, I have a couple of comments on the design. If we could, yeah. So, so this is an edge case, but if we're linking to some external resource, do we have to worry about whether it's available or not, like particularly authentication?
Yeah, we validate the field. So in the front end, there's an acceptance criteria here that let me see, validate. Yeah, form validation is provided. So for this field here. So if the URL is invalid.
But like, how do we handle or do we need to worry about the case where that remote resource, right, could be only available to certain people?
Yeah, that's also the case. So that's a good point. So how do we validate if the link resource is only available to certain people, right?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing would be to validate whether it's publicly available. And then, so that was my question. Should we insist if it's a public link, if a project's public, or should we maybe just have some link to the documentation saying, you know, the users are responsible for the authentication for this?
Yeah.
So that was kind of an edge case issue, but there's another one that's a bit more pressing, a bit further along. Well, that's just because it's the source. That's just a point that the source, what's in the source code, is not actually stored as generated, and the other ones are actually links.
Okay.
But then the next page is the one that I was more worried about. Next one, sorry. Next. Okay, so we have. I don't know why it's mandatory, but we have on the API. When you create a link, you must give it a name.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't know if we really do anything with those names.
We are, and this is why those prototypes are different. Let me actually, no, I'm not going back. It's going to take too much time if I go back. Yeah, here. This is the name, the link title.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So there's currently, yeah, so it's called name in the API, and so then should we give it the same, should we either change the API or something to match title?
Yeah, we can do that. We can definitely do that. I've been validating with Jackie, together with Jackie, this. And we didn't get any specific feedback on whether people prefer the name or title, but we can definitely just use link name or URL name.
Yeah, because at the moment you can create it, but we don't do anything with it, right? We don't display it.
But it's mandatory, right? So if I have...
Exactly, it's mandatory.
So I need to update the acceptance criteria to reflect that this field is mandatory for links. Update the label as well to match the API name. Okay, I can do that because this is here. So this will be link name.
Yeah, okay.
Link name. What else? Yeah, it's the same.
That's all I had for that one. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you see here. But then, if it's, how do we know if it's?
Oh, we can check. I mean, we can try and hit it.
Like that. Okay. And we check only it's possible. That's what I asked Nathan as well, to check in the front end, because we don't want people to first submit the form and then, hey, this URL is invalid.
Yep.
Especially that the form is so long.
Yeah. So there's also an edge case in that is sometimes a resource might take a long time to respond, right? And it might eventually respond yes, but we'll have to have a time. We'll have to just pick a time out.
Okay. Yeah. But we can look into those edge cases and this improvements in moving forward.
All right. Cool. Well, that was a long half-hour meeting.
Well, it's Friday, so it's okay. Awesome. I'm going to stop recording.